Hi everyone, welcome to Chell's Sugar Rush and welcome back if you've been here before. Today I'm going to be sharing with you this football themed cake I made for a birthday party. And of course this cake would be great for any type of football themed party. Now for this cake, I've started by baking two vanilla sheet cakes, and these were done in a 12 by 12 inch pan. And I've made some American buttercream to go on this cake as well. So here I'm just putting some American buttercream on this first layer of cake, and then I'm going to take that second cake and flip it bottom side up on top of this, just to give that nice flat smooth surface on top. And I'm going to pop this in the refrigerator to chill it, and then of course I will trim all the sides, but this is a little easier to do once you have the cake on the colder side. So now that our cake is chilled, I am taking a cake knife here and a ruler, and I'm taking about an inch off on each side. I want to have nice clean edges and also open up that cake board a little bit just for, trim on the finished cake. So once I'm done with taking the sides off, of course I am going to give the cake a nice crumb coat. And as you can see here, I am going to give it a little more than just a simple crumb coat. I'm going to go ahead and give it a nice thick coat, just because I'm going to be putting fondant over this cake. So I really don't want to have to go back and do a second layer. So here I'm just going to finish that crumb coat and just smooth everything down and chill it again so we can get ready for that fondant to go on, and then we'll start putting our fondant together. Here I'm just starting with some white fondant, and of course I want this to be green to mimic the color of the football field. So I'm adding some green food color, and I'm just going to knead that in until I get the color that I'm looking for, and then our fondant will be ready for the cover of the cake. And I did remember that I needed to do a white circle that will go under the green fondant for the area where I'll be cutting and kind of splitting that open to make it look like the football is coming out. So here I've just rolled out some white fondant, and I just used the top of one of my vegetable cans because it was the perfect circumference. And I put that down and just cut out a circle using that to get the size I needed for the circle to go under the green fondant. And now I'm going to put that kind of at one corner of the cake, and that's going to be that area, like I said, that I will cut, but I want that piece underneath, so when I cut it open, I've got the white fondant that can fall back onto the green flaps. And now back to rolling out our green fondant to cover the cake. And since this is a square cake, I'm going to roll this out in kind of a square shape, or as much as possible, that is, just so that it's, goes all the way to the edges of the cake with ease. So you want to do this a little differently than when you're putting it on or rolling it out for a round cake. And of course, I roll mine out to probably about a 1/4 inch thickness. It's very soft and pliable, and I like to be able to pull down on mine without having to worry about tears and ripping. And if the fondant is a little on the thicker side, it gives you a lot more give in the fondant when you're having to pull down. And here I'm just smoothing out the sides, and I'm kind of starting with those corners because the corners can be just a very difficult area. So I kind of start with those first, and then use my fondant tool and push kind of downward on the fondant. Like I said, I make it thick enough to have a lot of give in it, so I can push down on it with ease and without having to worry about tearing. And then I will go around with my fondant cutter and just take off that excess fondant, and make sure we have nice clean edges all the way around the bottom of the cake. And there we go. Now we have a nice smooth cake to work with for our foundation. Now we'll get ready to put some decorations on this. And to begin, I'm taking a knife here And where I put that white circle underneath the fondant, I am going to cut 4 lines going straight across each other. I want to make kind of an 8-point star, and you can see here I am pulling those pieces back, and this was the purpose of the white underneath. I want to be able to pull the pieces of the white fondant back as well. So I'm going to pull those all back and then kind of clean them up a little bit, because there is, I did get a little buttercream on the inside, of course, of the white. So I'm going to clean them up a little bit, and then we'll be ready to move on to the next piece of decoration. So now I'm going to roll out some white fondant, and this is going to be for the lines that are going to go on the cake to give it more of a football field kind of look. So here I've got a little roller tool that I bought. I found this and picked it up. It is great for making these straight lines in the fondant. And I did actually double that, cut it once, and then I moved it over about halfway and cut it again. And here I'm just doing a little measuring to cut the pieces the length I'm going to need them to go around the cake. So I am just going to adhere these with a little water and a brush, and I'm putting 3 bigger lines kind of on the ends and in the center, and then I am going to go back around and put some smaller lines in between these larger pieces of fondant. And like I said, this just gives us a kind of the model of the football field. Not exactly, but it gives us that football field feel to it. So I'm going to finish up these lines, and then I'm going to cut out some numbers for the cake. Okay, so for our numbers, I'm using white fondant again, and just some simple number fondant cutters here. And what I'm going to do is cut out some 50s and 40s, and I want to put a 50 in the center on each side of the cake, so I will need 4 of those. And then I'm going to put the 40s on the outside corners, but I will need it for all 4 sides, so I will need 8 sets of those. And here I'm just finishing those numbers, and then I'm going to adhere them to the cake the same way I did before, just with a little brush and some water. This works great, and you can see here the 50s in the center, and then of course the 40s on either side of the center pieces. And of course we have to have some trim around the bottom, so for this I am using a fondant tool, and I am taking some of that white fondant and I'm just put it in there. And this is an awesome tool. I can't think of the name of it right now, but I love this just for making those pieces of fondant that you need in different sizes and shapes, but you don't have to worry about rolling it out and shaping it yourself. I believe it's called a fondant extractor. But anyway, you see here I have just squeezed out some fondant in just the shape of a long skinny log, and I am brushing the bottom of the cake with some water, and I'm just going to start on a corner there and just neatly put this on all the way around. This is a very simple trim, but very effective. And of course my piece was a little short, so I had to roll out just a little bit more to finish that off. And now of course our trim is complete. And of course I am making a jersey here for the cake. This was requested by our birthday boy, who is a Minnesota Vikings fan. So I'm making the purple jersey and just decorating it like that of a Minnesota Viking. And I put the number 2 on it as he requested. And then for the name, I actually took a paintbrush and some white food coloring and painted his name on the jersey to give it that extra personal touch for him. And now it's ready for placement. And of course, for the football, I am using Rice Krispie treats. I like for anything that's standing up on the cake to be as light as possible. So this was the best thing to use. And I'm shaping it here the best I can, of course. But I'm also taking some more of my white fondant and coloring it with the brown food coloring to get it to that football brown. And then, of course, I'm going to roll it out and cover the football with it. And this was wasn't as hard as it looks. It was actually pretty easy to do, and I just smoothed it down around the football and, of course, then cut off that excess. And for the football, I did use one of my fondant tools with the little roller with the teeth on it to give it that stitching effect. And I, of course, cut out some more white fondant strips for those white strips that are on, a normal football. Although my football is a bit oddly shaped, still serves the purpose and was very effective. So hopefully the birthday boy will absolutely love it. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. I hope you enjoyed the video of this football cake. And if you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up. And don't forget, if you haven't already, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you'll be notified when I upload more cakes in the future. See you next time.